The LA Kings fall to the Washington Capitals. We ask the question and answer, is a loss ever acceptable? That's next on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On LA Kings, your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love for you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you're a fan of the show. And we are on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. It does help. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for over 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 17 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, the LA Kings saw their 5-game winning streak come to an end at the hands of the Washington Capitals on Wednesday night. If you missed it, here is a very quick recap. The Kings got what is normally the all-important first goal in this game, and the fourth line gets it done again. Arthur Kaliev threw the Artie party, his fifth time doing that this year, his fifth goal this season. And also the third pairing on defense got involved by getting the assists in this one. Andreas Englund got the primary assist, and Jordan Spence the secondary assist. Unfortunately, that would be the only goal of the game for LA. Washington's Anthony Mantha would tie it up later in the first period, and then Connor McMichael got the game winner in the second period. Kings threw everything they could at Caps goalie Charlie Lindgren, but he earned a hard-fought 2-1 victory. Let's get to the game stats in this one. Obviously, the final score 2-1 Washington. Shots on goal 39-15 in favor of the LA Kings. As I mentioned, they threw everything they had at Charlie Lindgren, and he was obviously up to the task. Credit the Washington netminder for a fine game. Just 15 shots on goal for the Capitals, and they were able to get 2 goals out of those 15 shots. As for the power play, Kings were 0 for 3. Capitals did not have a power play opportunity. Faceoffs won favored the Kings 27-18. Blocked shots favored the Capitals 18-10, as you would expect with the number of shots the Kings were clearly getting towards the net. As for the hits, that favored LA a slight advantage, 19-18. So a couple of notes from the game. Andrei Kopitar did not get an assist, did not get a point, so he's obviously still tied with Marcel Dion for the most assists in franchise history. We'll get more into Cam Talbot's night coming up in just a bit. Kings fall to 11-1-1 in games in which they scored the first goal, and they're now 13-4-1 overall and 4-4-3 on home ice. A quick look back to Wednesday's show when we talked about our keys to victory for the LA Kings. Get off to a good start, and that certainly seemed to be good advice going into the game. 11-0-1 when getting the first goal, and the Kings got that first goal. Unfortunately, they couldn't get any more, which was a bit of a surprise. The second key to victory for the Kings was to stay balanced and have 4 lines contribute. Well, they got the fourth line to contribute, which is always a good thing, but nobody else was able to get a puck into the net despite a lot of opportunities. And the third key to the game was win the special teams battle, have the special teams be special. That obviously did not happen, going 0 for 3 on the man advantage. So they did get the first goal. That seemed like to be maybe the biggest key, the number one key, but did not turn into a victory for the LA Kings. And as a fan, which I certainly am, you want your team to win every game, and that's understandable. It's obviously not realistic. We know that there's no team in the history of the NHL that's gone undefeated, and there will never be one. The question, though, is when your team loses, how did they play overall? And for me, the answer to that question is I thought the Kings played pretty well against the Washington Capitals. I thought they played good enough to win. Were there some mistakes? Sure, there always are. And the Kings, the category, the thing you're looking at is, did your team give it the effort required? And I thought the Kings did. They didn't start slow. They weren't out there going through the motions against a maybe lesser opponent, thinking that in the end they would just be able to do what they need to do to get the win based on talent alone. The Kings came out hard. They got the first goal. They had way more shots. They had way more quality scoring opportunities, but they did not capitalize on a lot of their opportunities, too many of their opportunities. Right off the bat, first minute of the game, Adrian Kempe makes a gorgeous pass into the slot to Quinton Byfield, who could not finish it. I thought the top line was tremendous in this game all night long. Quinton Byfield and Adrian Kempe had multiple quality opportunities to score. They just couldn't get it in the net. It was just one of those nights. Kempe had a breakaway in the second period, couldn't finish. Kings had, oh, by the way, I should mention the Kings did actually tie this game up if you didn't see the game in the third period. And you think, all right, that's tied it up, and now they're on home ice. They're gonna get the next goal, or maybe win in a shootout or in overtime, even though they haven't done that yet. But the Capitals challenged for offside, and unfortunately, Anze Kopitar, who scored the game-tying goal, was in fact offside. So wipe away the game-tying goal. Carl Grundstrom had a play in the first period where the Capitals goalie, one of the rare mistakes he made on the night, he actually passed it right to Grundstrom, and I think he was so surprised by it he didn't get a shot on net. Drew Doughty and Mikey Anderson were firing away from the point. Kevin Fiala had a couple of good looks. Pierre-Luc Dubois had one really strong drive to the net that he didn't score on. Kopitar missed the rebound chance off a Matt Roy shot. Kempe hit the crossbar late on the power play. It was one of those nights, and it happens. Was the effort there? For sure, but the finish wasn't. Was it due to the fact that the Kings had 3 days off in between games and maybe weren't quite in a rhythm like they were and when they usually are when you play pretty much every other night? Maybe that was a factor. Certainly having those 3 days off, it looked like the Kings had plenty of energy because they were skating all over the place. So for me, and this is me, I think this is a loss that I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over. And I don't think the Kings should either. Now, again, don't get me wrong. There were mistakes made, and those things need to be worked on. The Kings do need to do a better job with some of the issues that they had. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about the 2 goals that were allowed. And I'm sure Todd McLellan, being a coach who always is going to look at the things you need to work on, is going to use the next couple of days to try and work on those things and emphasize that in practice. But again, I think this is one of those games where you chalk it up to it just wasn't the Kings' night. Like I said, the energy was there, the effort was there, but they just couldn't get the right, I don't want to say the right bounce of the puck, but there were certainly opportunities that they just didn't finalize on. So the Kings are going to have 3 more days off before their next game. Blake Lizotte hopefully will be able to use that time to get back in the lineup, although I don't know that he's been missed, to be totally honest with you. I think the Kings have played okay without him, but he is an energy guy. He does bring a spark, so it'll be good to get him back if that is in fact the case. And the Kings will need to be ready because their next game coming up on Sunday against one of the top teams in the NHL in the Colorado Avalanche. I did want to go to our quote of the game and see what Todd McLellan had to say about this. And here was the LA Kings head coach on the loss to the Washington Capitals. He said, quote, "The LA Kings can't count on scoring 4 or 5 goals a night. That's just not realistic. So there's going to be nights where you have to win 1-0 or 2-1. We weren't poor as far as effort or execution, but didn't score enough and made enough mistakes to let a team leave with 2 points." That was Kings head coach Todd McLellan after the loss, the 2-1 loss to the Washington Capitals. And I can't really disagree with anything he said there. I thought the Kings' effort and execution was there, but just that finishing touch did not seem to be there, unfortunately, for the LA Kings. One other note that may or may not have been a factor in the game, but I think is something to keep in mind going forward if the Kings continue to be as successful as they have been so far in this season. And that's that LA is now, again, starting to get national attention. Teams are starting to talk about the LA Kings as one of the best teams in the NHL. Hopefully that will continue to be the case. But I do think that teams now will look at LA as kind of a measuring stick, a team that if we can play well against this team, we can prove to ourselves that we're able to compete with the best teams in the league. So point is, the Kings, I think there are going to be nights where they're going to get a team's best effort. I think Washington certainly was more up for this game than they were in their previous game against the worst team in the league, San Jose. So the Kings are going to get a lot of teams' best shots, and they're going to need to be ready to step up to that kind of a challenge. We will get into what we liked and didn't like from the game and also talk about the night for goaltender Cam Talbot. We'll do that more here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets for your next big event. I don't, because I use Gametime, the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. You may have heard me say many times, I went on vacation to New York, went to see a Rangers Hurricanes game at Madison Square Garden. I bought my tickets through Gametime and had a great experience all the way around. The app is very easy to navigate and use. I know from firsthand experience. They've got killer last minute deals, all in prices, and the best price guaranteed. Gametime's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. And I love if you can view the seat from where you're going to buy it from before you actually buy it, so you know exactly what you're going to get when you arrive. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. All in prices show you the total upfront, so you know what you're getting, a great deal without any hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps of the app. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories in sports with local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. As we do after every game, we are going to talk about what we liked and what we did not like. What we liked about the game against the Capitals, well, the effort. The effort was there. The Kings were flying around. They were making things happen. That kind of effort in every game will usually get positive results for the LA Kings. We like the fourth line striking again. And also the third pairing defensively getting into scoring as well. As I mentioned, defenseman Andreas Englund put a shot towards the net. Now, it was wide of the net, came hard off the boards, and Arthur Kallio was there to put in the rebound. If Englund did that on purpose, that was an amazing play. Either way, get pucks towards the net, and good things are going to happen. Nice play by Kallio to be ready for the rebound. So always nice when your third pairing defensively and your fourth line offensively gets in on the scoring. Unfortunately, they were the only ones to get in on the scoring. Also, we like the fact that the Kings stayed out of the box. I think that was the first game this year they didn't take a single penalty, which is pretty amazing. So no power play chances for Washington, and that is usually a good thing. You'd like to do that more often than not. As far as what we did not like, the Kings did not capitalize on their chances. Quentin Byfield and Adrian Kempe in particular just didn't finish. And Q has been amazing this season. We saw last year, right? He had the hustle and he had the speed. This year, he's combined that with strength and confidence. And we've seen the creativity passing the puck. The one thing that he still has to be much better on is completing the play, being able to finish around the net. He's had his chances, but has only scored 3 goals so far in the season. He's had some opportunities and some great opportunities in this game against Washington. But again, it's something that if Quentin Byfield is going to be a top-level player, I think he's on his way. He's doing a lot of good things, but that is one thing clearly he still needs to work on. As for Adrian Kempe, I mean, he's a 40-goal scorer in this league. He knows how to finish, and yet even he couldn't do it as well. Had a lot of great chances. We know he's a finisher. He knows he's a finisher. I think more than any other player in the game against the Capitals, he kind of exemplified the night for the LA Kings. Lots of great chances, just could not get the puck in the net. And again, it was just kind of one of those games for the LA Kings. Obviously, we didn't like the lack of execution on the power play. LA had key opportunities with the man advantage, including one late in the third to try and tie up that game. That was the one where Kempe hit it off the crossbar. And it was the same story, 5-on-5. Kings had good looks, couldn't finish. But as far as the power play goes, overall, the percentage is what the percentage is, but there are going to be key moments in a game where you're going to get a power play opportunity, or you may get a power play opportunity. And the Kings had that in this game, and you've got to capitalize on other teams' mistakes. That was part of the story. The Kings could not do that. against the Capitals. As far as some of the things involving goaltender Cam Talbot, he falls to 10-4-1 on the season with that loss. He's 2-4 at home, although I don't think I have much of a complaint with his night. The 2 goals he allowed, yes, they were just on 15 shots, which means that his save percentage is going to be affected by that. It did go down from 931 to 928. His goals against average was pretty much unchanged. He allowed 2 goals, and his GAA is 2.02. But it was not a bad night for Cam Talbot. Now, he wasn't asked to do a lot. And you could certainly say he did not outplay his opponent at the other end of the ice, Charlie Lindgren, but that was because Lindgren had to be a lot better. He had a lot more shots than he saw. But looking at the 2 goals that Cam Talbot allowed, the first goal, Matt Roy made an ill-timed pinch. Trevor Lewis couldn't get back in time to cover for him. And then Vladislav Gavrikov with the 2-on-1. He can't let that pass go through. He's got to take away the pass, let the shooter shoot it, and let the goaltender play the shooter. He didn't do it. The pass got through. Cam Talbot had no chance on that. So you can't hang that one on the Kings goaltender. Second goal, Kings turn it over in their own zone, led to a shot on goal. Talbot made the first save, but there was a rebound. It was batted out of midair and into the net. Credit the Caps for crashing the net. Kings did not protect the crease well enough on that play. Not a soft goal. So I don't have much of a gripe with Cam Talbot on that second goal either. So again, not a bad night for Cam. You don't like to see a team score 2 goals on only 15 shots, but again, he was good enough for the Kings to win. In my opinion, he definitely did not get the offensive support that he has gotten for most of the season from his teammates. But as Todd McLellan said in his quote that we shared with you, the Kings have to find ways to win close games. Obviously, come playoff time, games are probably going to be a lot tighter, a little bit more low scoring, a lot of block shots. In those key games, in those key moments, you got to find a way to get the job done. So that's a lesson the Kings need to take away from this game. Great if you could score 4 goals a game, which they've done a lot, but that's not always going to happen. And when you get in those gritty, low-scoring games, got to find a way to get it done. Unfortunately, the Kings could not do that in a game against the Capitals. Coming up next, we do have some Kings news to share, and also kind of an interesting news item from a couple of Kings division rivals to pass along. We'll do that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle at a level up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you are looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. The LA Kings host the Colorado Avalanche Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Catch every moment of the hometown broadcast of the LA Kings with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search LA Kings. There was some Kings news that was put out there today, and thought I'd pass it along. And it's certainly something well in advance. But I guess if you want to mark your calendars, particularly if you are in the IE, if you're the Inland Empire, then this is news you will be curious to know about. But the LA Kings announced that they will play the Anaheim Ducks in a preseason game at Toyota Arena in Ontario next year. It's going to be Saturday, September 28th, 2024, in the second edition of the Empire Classic. The game marks the third Kings preseason game announced for the 2024-25 season. We talked about it earlier. The Kings are going to play a pair of games in Quebec City on October 3rd and October 5th against the Boston Bruins and Florida Panthers. And the Kings will also be holding some of their training camp in Quebec City as well. Why are they doing this? If you missed it earlier, the Crypto.com Arena is going to be going through the final stages of its renovation at that time. So the Kings will not be able to play any preseason games in Crypto.com Arena. So again, Quebec City, and again, just announced they will play a second Empire Classic game in Ontario, home of the Ontario Reign, their AHL affiliate. And that'll be Saturday, September 28th, 2024. So if you're in the IE and you want to see the Kings a little closer to home, certainly circle that on your calendar. I did want to mention there was a trade made today involving two of the Kings' Pacific Division rivals. And it's always interesting to see a trade between two teams in the same division. And during the season, it doesn't happen a lot. But the Vancouver Canucks acquired defenseman Nikita Zadorov from the Calgary Flames in exchange for a 5th-round pick in 2024 and a 3rd-round pick in 2026. Canucks are one of those teams that the Kings are directly fighting with right now for playoff positioning at this point. Vancouver currently 2nd in the Pacific Division with 31 points. That's heading into Thursday's action. The Kings are at 29 points, but LA does have 3 games in hand on Vancouver. If the season were to end today, which obviously it doesn't, the Canucks will be hosting the Kings in the first round of the playoffs. So this trade certainly makes Vancouver better, which is not good news for the LA Kings. If you don't know Nikita Zadorov, he's a big, physical, rugged left shot defenseman. Nice move by the Canucks, in my opinion. And they get this player at a very reasonable price. Zadorov, if you don't follow the NHL as a whole, he had demanded a trade, wasn't happy in Calgary, wanted out. He's a guy who's very outspoken, doesn't mind speaking his mind at all. And he's been very candid about the issues that the Calgary Flames have had both this year and last year. And I'm guessing that at times that doesn't sit well with his teammates and at times doesn't sit well with the organization. But that said, it's not like he's lying. And he's a good player. So he was in demand. There was a lot of talk about him being going to a lot of different places. So there were a lot of different teams that had interest in him. But in the end, he goes to Vancouver, and the price, in my opinion, was very reasonable. Like I said, there were a lot of teams that were interested in him, and he's a guy who could have helped out a lot of different teams. And I'm surprised that the Flames did not get more in return. I'm also surprised they dealt him to a division rival, a Canadian division rival, and that, what was the hurry? Why did they decide to trade him now? I think if they would have waited, and then you would have saw, later on as the year goes on, more injuries in the NHL, defensemen going down, and a need by other teams to get somebody like a Nikita Zadorov, that would have certainly bumped the price up. So I'm not sure what the urgency was to do it. But they did, and I think it was a great get for the Calgary Flames. Now, I guess one of the kind of sticking points with other teams was that Calgary didn't want to have to pay any of his salary. They didn't want any salary retention. And apparently Vancouver was fine with that. And I guess the other teams weren't. So apparently that was the big selling point, if you will, for Calgary to send him to Vancouver. But something to keep in mind forward. We have not played the Canucks yet or the Flames. But those are going to be some big games coming up later on in the year. LA Kings against the Vancouver Canucks. And we'll unfortunately have to face defenseman Nikita Zadorov now as a member of the Canucks. For you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up tomorrow, it is a Friday fan feedback show. Your questions and comments on the LA Kings, anything involving the LA Kings. And I think I'm going to be barbecued a little bit by some of the emailers because I made a dumb mistake. And I know we have some emails about that. And I will try to explain the unexplainable, why and how I made this mistake about something the Kings I thought had never done before. But I was incorrect. We'll talk about it on tomorrow's show. And because there is no game tonight and there is no game on Saturday, nothing to recap, nothing to preview the Friday show, barring some kind of breaking news involving the Kings. The entire Friday show will be about your feedback. So your emails, your comments on YouTube, and you could also, if you want, reach out on social media on Twitter or on Instagram as well to get your questions and comments in. The email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you can always leave your comments on the YouTube episodes down below. We would love for you to stay interactive with the show. You can follow us on X or Twitter or Instagram as well. Those are both at Locked On LA Kings. That is going to do it for today's show. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thanks for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We will talk to you on Friday. And as always, go Kings, go.